Mars and Libra, guys. Mars and Libra. We are talking about Mars in Libra. Mars entering Libra on August 6th. And it has some interesting alignments in regards to the air energies that we're going to be talking about. I got whatchamacallit. I got to write down some of the timestamps in the notes, and then we're going to get into it. I had a very deep sleep, so I'm a little schlumped. But we gonna go for it today. We going for it today. We're gonna be on live for like 2-3 hours. I got a lot to cover. Hello. Talk about Mars and Libra. Oh, hey, what's going on? Everybody liked the live. Getting warmed up. Writing down the notes as always. We got all that. Okay. All right. So Mars and Libra, right? So essentially today in this live, we are going over just Mars and Libra. It enters on August 6th. It's going till September 22nd. Essentially what that means is it's like a fight with grace, and like you're learning what it means to fight with grace, to act with strategy, and to move with balanced power, and to essentially learn how to, not rely on other people for different things, because one of the main things about Mars and Libra is a risk of codependency, mainly because it's like, it's not like you don't have excitement or the drive to do things, but your drive is heavily reliant on others, right? So essentially what's going on is it's like like that's like a big thing they got to get over, right? Because the thing about that is like Mars and Libra, it has like a two-way street of codependency. So it's like they can gift what they feel they need, and at the same time it's like they need what they have the gift for. So it's kind of dumb, in that regard. So essentially, like, I wouldn't call this a soft transit. Everybody here commenting, like the live, boost it up for me. I wanna get above, at least give me 100 likes on this live. I want to see what happens. So yeah, double tap that screen for you, boy. So essentially what's going on is like, we're also going to be talking about some key planetary alignments that are going on, because there's going to be a grand Air Trine, and with that grand Air Trine, a lot's going to happen with that. I've spoken about it. I've spoken about what the Air Trine's already doing in regards to like how it's going to change just a lot of things, education, social media. We're going to get into that. And then, of course, for you guys, we're going to have an all signs reading. So then I can go and say things like, drop your sign, and be like, are you a Cancer? I know you want to just hear about yourself, stuff like that, right? So it's going to be a very beautiful live, if you're ready to turn energy into elegance, drop a little, you know, a little swan, a little dove in the chat. Hey, what's going on? Everybody new, like the live. Double tap that screen for me, or put little thingies up here. Blast it out to the peoples, man. Blast it out to the peoples. But yeah, anyways, so Mars and Libra from a much more technical standpoint. Let's get into it. So Mars is your action, your desire, your drive, your willpower. I saw somebody talking about Mars last night in a way that is a, like, it's essentially it's the essence of who you are before anybody kind of like muddies the waters, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's you. It's your original state. It's who you want to be. It's how you naturally are. Till like people kind of like put like societal expectations on you. And the reason people say that is because it's like, it's your impulse. It's naturally what you're driving towards. And while I think that is an eloquent breakdown of like how Mars is, since we were, you know, getting real spiritual with the last live, talking about star seeds and where you came from as an origin, I don't necessarily think that's who you are. I think that's your natural gift of impulse for this current version of you in this lifetime, you know? So it's cool in that way because, you know, yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, it's doing all that. But like, is it essentially who you are? I don't think so. But I think that's a cool, you know, way to talk about it that'll, you know, get people interested. So when we like put that and that like initial feeling of who you want to be and what you want to do, so it's like your action, desires, your willpower, your drive, that first feeling that gets you up in the morning. Putting that with Libra and adding balance and harmony to that, it's a bit detrimental, you know, because it's not Mars and Aries throwing punches. It's not Mars and Libra essentially tuning your power to poetry, right? And it has that energy of naturally being predisposed to relationships. So when we talk about Mars and Libra in that way, essentially the way you guys win the room is not by force, but by frequency. Yo, what's up? Like the live for you, boy. Double tap that screen. But yeah, so it's just like, where Mars in Aries, aka the aggressive at-home side of Mars, where that kind of wants, you know, aggression, violence, immediate abundance, you know, instant gratification. Libra wants peace, but Mars in its natural state wants motion. So essentially what this transit forces us to ask is like, how do I move without betraying my inner harmony? How do I set boundaries that feel beautiful and not brutal, right? So it's like, if we think about just like the general hustle culture in America and things like that, it's like, that's very Mars and Aries, right? Whereas if we go to, say, France or, you know, something else along those lines, that's more Mars and Libra, Mars and Leo energies of where it's just peaceful, it's quiet, it's calming, and it's very focused on what makes you feel aligned with yourself, right? So essentially what's going on with that energy is it's just peaceful. It doesn't necessarily act. It makes sure everything's in alignment. And being that we're talking about the energies of Libra, Libra is a very, you know, when we talk about the higher echelons of Libra, I always like to talk about Thomas Edison, because that man was the epitome of, essentially, that man was the epitome of, whatchamacallit, like, the Libra energies, right? And what I mean by that is, like, homie didn't invent anything on his own. Mans was straight, like, he was, what do I say this? He was leveraging, I don't even know how many other inventors or scientists he had under them, but straight up, homie was like taking a nap, trying to dip into the spirit world the way, like, you know, Tesla and everybody was at that time, because everybody was into the occult at that time. Everybody was into just spirituality at that time. Some people were into treasure hunting at that time. A lot of weird stuff going on in regards to the mental realms. But with that being said, everybody knew Life Alive. Come on, 1 like, and I had 17 viewers. Y'all are tripping. But essentially what's going on, thank you. with the Libra energies is it's like the whole point is to leverage the connection and energy of relationships, right? So, for example, I saw a video earlier talking about Bulgarian horses that are like super buff, like bulldog horses that can essentially carry like 10,000 pounds each. But when you put them together, the strength of a relationship and the strength of inertia, they're able to carry up to 34,000 pounds and haul that, right? So when we talk about the concept of like pressure is always easier felt when it's two, right? So when we think about Libra and we think about the energy of like Thomas Edison having a whole, you know, what's the word? I guess you could say like incubator for taking credit for his own inventions. That is the essence of Libra's power, right? And when we talk about that from a Martian perspective, Mars is so predicated on that energy of codependency and that energy of relying on others because it knows the power of sharing excitement or sharing drive. If you have two energies focusing on it, you have two perspectives. You know, two energies is essentially a multiplication factor, especially when they have such a clarity and a clerical focus, because it's powerful. Because it doesn't multiply it by two, it multiplies it by 3.5 and then some, right? So this is why that Mars in Libra energy is so focused on that. And one of the things I was mentioning earlier is that like the same way that Cancer inevitably like builds their shell and their boundaries off of the strength of, you know, essentially fear. Mars in Libra is also fearful, not because they necessarily fear doing things out on their own, although it can come to that, but they fear not having the power of initiating things on their own, right? So they fear the power of not having that multiplication factor since that's what they're used to. They're used to that energy of people coming to support them. They're used to that energy of people essentially like supporting them in such a way that is not as like abundant or focused, right? Because essentially it's like why drive takes such a huge dip with Mars and Libra is because they have such high standards for who they want to share their drive with and also the need to share their drive, because they don't necessarily like, how do I say this? They don't it's not like they fear it, but it's like they don't really access any of their gifts because they're so used to all of that, right? Thank you very much. Yeah, I like this is one of the transit lives. I was doing some more interesting stuff yesterday when I was talking about like fixed star astrology, your moon sign, and like potential past lives that like come along with that because you know, I find that to be more interesting than just talking about a simple sign. But, you know, talking about the signs is where people are at, and you got to meet people where they're at, right? You know, because you can't just pull up and be like, you angle Arcturus in the Boots constellation, and that means that you have a very affinity for technical leadership and being someone that protects their flock, you know, and like saying things like that and then dissecting the chart in such a way to where you can understand why you incarnated with certain tools, right? That's a bit complicated for most people, but those who are interested like it. Anyways, with that being said, it's like Libra wants peace, Mars wants motion, and inevitably they have to meet in the middle and learn how to move with grace, right? Now, excuse me, where things get a bit crazy is, unless anybody has any other questions on Mars in Libra. Yeah, I mean, Moon and Scorpio, that's like potentially 8 different constellations that your moon sign could angle. I would have to know the specific degree and year you were born to, you know, tell you that. But yeah. So the key dates that we're working with here, in terms of like direct transits, is August 8th, which is what people call the Lion's Gate. And like, you know, I did another live on that the day before. Doesn't exist. You know, it's a fake alignment. But these are some real alignments that actually matter in regards to that. So we have, whatchamacallit? That's funny. All right, key dates. All right, let me write this down. So if we talk about August 8th, there's the fake alignment. So there's a lot of energies going on. We have Mars trine Uranus. So it's all about breaking free with style, taking a risk that feels elegant, innovation through graceful rebellion. If I were to give you a very practical situation of how this would play out, this is like someone, so if you're in, so since we're talking about Mars and Libra, right? Say you're in a, you know, a shit relationship. This is someone just saying the words breakup, and you're good like, yeah, I should do that, you know? So essentially what it's going on with that is Uranus and Gemini plus Mars and Libra is chaotic ideas from your closer friends and like local associations. So it's like whoever you're just like vibing with, doing their thing, saying what up. That is pretty much the energy of what would happen, right? It's just like someone randomly tells you something and you gain strength from that connection or that relationship to do XYZ random thing that you feel inspired to do, you know? Now the next alignment, essentially what's going on, hey, we gotta wait for Mr. X. Now the next alignment that we also have going on the 8th is, you know, something's probably gonna trigger you. Something's probably gonna you know, test your patience. Instead of resisting, essentially what you want to do is restructure. Boundaries are not blockages. They're blueprints for what you're willing to accept and a reflection of your own self-love. So when we talk about that energy of Mars and Libra and that opposition, essentially what we have going on is an opportunity to recognize what's going on. Now, I'm not married. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know why that's a question. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so it's like with those alignments of Mars and Libra, like I said, it's a whole lot of boundary testing that we have going on, because for the entirety of Leo season is like a reminder of your childhood excitement and what you want to have going on. And then we have a lot of different alignments that are essentially testing you, and we're in that testing phase. So the testing phase is pretty much from July 30th all the way through, I would say August 10th, maybe August 11th. And then after that, like, zooming up, it's cool. So, no, I have no idea what that is. So, yeah, that's essentially what it is in regards to, you know, it's pretty much what it is, right? Like, it's just, you know, you got like a little reminder of what you like to do. You got some inspiration for what you're hype on, but, you know, right now we're in the period of like the universe kind of testing you and you're just dealing with some bullshit, you know? Now, the next alignment that we have on August 9th, which is also the full moon in Aquarius, is Mars opposite Neptune. So, like, confusion, a lot of confusion is going to come from that. Don't act impulsively. Rest, receive, recalibrate, and don't feed the illusions, right? When we think about the energy of the Mars opposition, we have to think about this from the perspective of, we have to think about it like we're getting an outside perspective on our dreams and how we are representing our dreams, right? So if you like a certain thing or you're doing a certain thing, essentially what's going on with that is people are just kind of like telling you how you're like, people are basically giving you a, like, that's an opportunity for a direct mirror to see if you're ready to receive the dreams that you're chasing, right? Are you in the space for that? Are you in the position for that? How are you going to do that when you're like, you know, like essentially what it's asking is like, how are you going to do all that when you're in a crappy relationship? Do you really want to be rich? Do you want to break up with somebody and someone just dumped a bunch of money on you and they're going to be like, ah, no, you know? So essentially what's going on with that is like, you got to recognize when the universe is giving you a mirror, because in this case, it is a very deep mirror. It's a very powerful mirror. It's a very, you know, it's a very specific thing that if you know how to use it from an aspect of spirituality and you really understand the astrology behind it and you understand your houses that are aligned with it, you can, you know, there's some power behind it. You know what I'm saying? So instead of just sitting and being confused, take the time to rest, receive, and recalibrate, and let society or the universe using society as a mirror to tell you if you're directly aligned with your dreams or not. Because that's a powerful thing. That's basically saying, hey man, if you stop fucking up here, 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 and here, we'll just give it to you. You know? The natural state of the universe is abundance. The natural state of the universe is that power. The natural state of the universe is that, you know, chaotic energy that can give you what you want, right? And honestly, like that, like chaos of the universe is, like when I do like a lot of like oracle card readings, or I do a lot of tarot card readings, allowing for like using the shuffling of the deck is essentially using that mechanism of chaos for like what you want, right? Because it's like you want a specific answer, but it's the same thing as like drifting. If you want to go right, go left. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that type of thing. So essentially what it is using that chaos to get the clarity you want. So it's literally the same energy that is underlying a tarot or an oracle card reading, which is what I'm going to be doing later. And that is I don't know, I think it's quite powerful. I think it's cool. I think it's unique when you find these like subtle mechanisms of the universe to essentially create something that's more powerful than you can ever imagine, right? And now the next alignment, and once again these are specific alignments, I'm gonna get a lot deeper. I'm gonna get a lot deeper when we get into the grand Air Trine, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now the specific alignment of Mars trine Pluto, once again Mars is in Libra, Pluto is in Aquarius. So this is a portal to make a move. Speak your truth, cut the cord. You're sharp enough to handle this transformation, you know what I'm saying? So essentially, you know what they say, if you think I'm handsome, pay the ransom. But yeah, so if you look at it from the perspective of, whatchamacallit, if you look at it from the perspective of the two harsh planets, the two scorpionic planets playing around in the air signs of Aquarius and Libra, this is an opportunity to be very decisive and allow the universe to gift you essentially someone who is aligned with the energy of your goals based off your level of selectiveness, right? So essentially what's going on with that is it's like, I don't know, it's like the power of the no, the power of saying you don't want something, the power of recognizing that who you don't allow in your life is reflective of, you know, the standards that you have for yourself, right? So clearing that space and accepting the fact that you don't want anyone in your life or you don't want any extra relationships in your life is the opportunity for you to cultivate a level of power from being selective, right? And when you are this selective and you have those high standards, naturally the universe will bend to your will because it's a conscious projection field. And when you recognize that the conscious projection field has this energies going on, you'd be surprised who shows up. You'd be surprised who pulls up in your experience. You'd be surprised who inevitably grows and you're attracting, right? So it's, you know, it's some powerful stuff we're talking about here, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the energy of selectivity, the energy of mastering your, you know, you're mastering your energy itself. The vibration of, what? Okay. Yeah. Oh man, yo, everybody new like the live. Just make the like button go up. Press crazy buttons. Press buttons, please. But yeah, so that's pretty much I mean, I could talk a lot about the energy of selectivity and precision, and like going directly after what you want, but like, it's not that long. We got other alignments that are important. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Grand Air Trine, which is something that I will talk about extensively. Grand Air Trine. Thank you. If you want to just make shiny things go up here. Okay, so when we talk about the Grand Air Trine, the Grand Air Trine is Mars in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, and then we have Pluto in Aquarius. I've talked about them individually extensively, you know? The energies of, what is it? The energies of, let me move this up. I want to have a different perspective on this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so when we talk about, look more at me, dog. Yeah. So yeah, so when we talk about the triplet energies, essentially what we got going on with that is Pluto in Aquarius is all about the game of power has shifted essentially to how communities organize themselves, which is very obvious. Look, you're looking at an app that does it right now, you know? This app currently is aggregating all of your data and figuring out what you like and figuring out your mannerisms, and, you know, essentially not only are they using that data for advertisers, content selection, but they're also selling that data, right? So essentially what it is, I'm a Gemini. So essentially what that is everything is power-wise is based around how communities organize, especially on the internet, right? That's why data is the new gold. That's why, you know, you can plug your website up to Amazon Exchange, and, you know, companies and organizations will literally bid for that website data because they can therefore use it on other internet apps and other internet applications to inevitably sell you on something, right? So when we think about the aggregation of attention and the marketplace of attention, essentially, this is where you get into the concept of, like, you know, time and energy is encapsulated in what we call currency, right? So, like, essentially, like, your hourly rate or your pay rate is a reflection of how much you have levered up your ability to acquire currency, you know? So things you can do that is, number one, be born in a first world country. You know, I live in the country of the world reserve currency. So therefore, checked off the box. No matter what I do, I will always be in the top 1% of earners in the entire world, you know? So, like, I could be impoverished by the standards of this country. However, essentially what's going on with that is, what's going on here? Essentially what's going on with that is, like, you know, I'm also, if we're going from, like, life and, you know, what's the word? Life and, societal standards, like, you know, technically I still could feel impoverished, but, like, you know, if I manage to get that impoverished income into an online income, I could do quote unquote US dollar arbitrage and move to a different country and be like, I'm rich here, you know? Like, so yeah. But that's pretty much the essentially what's going on. What's up, Beach Boy? Beach Boy. What's one of the Beach Boy songs? Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you, Bahamas, yeah, that one. But yeah, so basically it's like, when we think about, like, attention and human energy in this way, it's like, how do I multiply that? Well, right now, like, one of the main things and one of the metrics for, like, YouTube per se is watch time, right? Like, every social media algorithm across the world, no matter what, wants watch time. They want you to stay on the app so they can have more opportunities to sell you advertising space, to collect your data, to, you know, boost their own metrics for when they, you know, reach out to companies like venture capital to extend the runway, or they want to have different metrics to get a valuation for a company to potentially IPO on the stock exchange, which is the, you know, legal and company equivalent to do a meme coin rug pull. It's the same exact thing, you know, but, you know, one's regulated, one's not, blah, 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 blah. But essentially, like, that's Pluto and Aquarius, right? Now, the other aspect of Pluto and Aquarius is people doing things along the lines of saying, like managing societal sentiment. So one of the other things along that lines is like people want to essentially like like when we think about power, of course, like making money and, you know, aggregating a bunch of data for XYZ is useful, but if you have all that data, you could skip trying to synthesize and analyze it, and you could just tell the people what they need to think, you know? So one of the things that are happening in regards to Pluto and Aquarius in this way is they can just plant and make things viral, right? Like if there's a certain song, a certain frequency, like this is a spiritual channel, we're talking about spirituality, you know, music, energy, vibration is all energy that can help trigger and mitigate and manage different aspects of people. So if we think about a song carries certain energy, a song carries certain vibrations. And where do songs go viral now? TikTok and TikTok dances. So now they have a stronger ability, or just people with the platforms we have now have a stronger ability to selectively inject a certain thought, energy, and vibration into the world, right? So if labels want to make some things go viral and they understand that herd mentality, they can literally just pay micro influencers and clippers, you know, like this is the whole point of how people go viral nowadays. They just put clips on numerous different accounts to essentially push one single person and tag them back, which will, you know, if you have enough money behind it, you can make anything go viral, you know? So this is just how people are thinking in terms of like power and gaining control and gaining energy over people these days, right? This is Pluto and Aquarius. It's all based on, you know, social media, the internet, how societies aggregate themselves. Like that's what's going on, right? So essentially, like, and I know this because like I run numerous zodiac meme pages on the internet, on Instagram specifically, and like companies reach out to post specific memes, and then like it's not often that they're like that it seems like they're pushing a specific ideology, but you know 1% of the time it does happen, right? And that 1% of the time they're like, hey, can you adapt this idea to all of your pages? And then I go, yeah, sure. You know, it's like I haven't seen anything crazy, but it's just like for example, the greatest one is the memes about people just straight shitting on Motorola. You know, it's like how could you have this? You know, it's like the meme of the blue text versus green text versus iPhone versus Android, right? Like that is a meme that lives in internet culture. You know what I'm saying? So this is what Pluto and Aquarius is doing, right? And this is one of the aspects of astrology that I always talk about, of where it's like most people use astrology for the literal dumbest shit, you know? They use it for like DM to DF, which I will forever talk crap on because that is essentially just perpetuating like people being in toxic relationships. You know what it is? And it's just like astrology answers the question of where, when, and why, but that doesn't stop you from having the intention to do something in your life. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, are you going to do something with your life, or are you just going to hope that Mars exits your 7th house in Libra and you don't have any arguments in your relationship anymore, right? Like that's just being lazy. That's looking at energy as a lottery ticket, and that's not what it is, right? Like everybody uses the exclusive that JP Morgan quote, which is a whole other thing that I can get into regarding Pluto and Aquarius, which honestly, you know what, I will. Pluto and Aquarius, like with that, well, let me get to the JP Morgan quote first. So the JP Morgan quote is, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Now, the average person into astrology will use that as an excuse to, you know, rectify other people's perspectives of their interest in astrology, right? So when we think about that, we have to look at it from the perspective of, yes, you know, people use astrology But are you using it right? The answer is no. You're probably using it for some stupid shit, you know? So when we think about that and we extrapolate that, like what did James Pierpont Morgan do? Big PP. He worked for years to essentially, mold the financial system during I guess it was the second industrial revolution, maybe the third, I don't know, whatever, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, revolutionizing the financial system, right? We'll get into that with well, let me not get too off topic yet. So he revolutionized the financial system and then found astrology and made that quote, right? Because he needed that extra edge for timing of doing things, right? If you're curious about how that is, one of the lives I did recently was the astrology of business. I think I did that like last week or something. But the whole point is like man's had a whole career and became a multimillionaire before he even like decided to use astrology. That's what I'm saying, you know? So it's like it's important to do this thing called I don't know, life before you actually apply astrology to it, right? Like one of the things I did is I launched my school. I launched my school on a very specific day. I launched my school on the day that Jupiter went into Gemini because when we get deeper into the grand air trine of what we're talking about, we're going to be talking about Uranus trine Pluto in Aquarius right now, which is changing the way that society learns. It does its basic learning, its basic education, and it adapts to its information, right? So it's like everybody's talking about the revolution of the financial system, which is the next topic that I'm talking about in regards to Pluto and Aquarius. But people aren't talking about the revolution of education, which is this school link right here of where I actually teach my style of astrology and what to do with it, right? Instead of being a lazy person that watches DM to DF tarot card readings, thinking that that toxic relationship is good for them and it's going to come back off the strength of energy, and that your ancestors actually care about that. You know what? They don't, and you shouldn't either. So, with that being said, before we get into the Uranus and Gemini and then the Mars trine and all that, the other aspect of Pluto and Aquarius is the shift in the financial system, right? So a lot of people talk about the death of the dollar. A lot of people talk about the Pluto return in America having some correlation to that. However, they negate the fact that the dollar wasn't initiated until like 10 or 11 years after the launch of the US, right? Because they had a sort of government. They had the Articles of Confederation, the Articles of Confederation dollar, and we know where that went. But now, when we move into Pluto and Aquarius times, and the dollar not existing till 10 or 11 years later, we have to think about what's going on now. Do you think these people don't use astrology? Do you think they're not front running it? I will tell you how they're front running it. It's called the Clarity Act. It's called, we're not doing CBDCs, but what are we doing? We are doing the same thing we always do, of where it's like, we're not like China, but we're going to do the same exact thing 4 years later and hide it under a corporate structure, which is exactly what they're doing. Because there's this magical thing called USDC, or another digital dollar, that is in the crypto space. And conveniently, two of these companies are the only public IPO'd companies, the publicly traded companies on the stock exchange. It is Coinbase and Circle. When you put these two things together, you go, what is doing that? And they're, with their regulations, what are they doing? Conveniently, the reserves that they buy are exclusively U.S. treasuries. So when an entity that is conveniently aligned with something that the government wants, which is more tracking and control over your money, and they can, and the person that is facilitating that is one of the top 10 purchasers of U.S. treasuries, what do you think's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? And if we go a little bit deeper and we dig, we see that when one of the main banks that is in this area of where all this happened, Silicon Valley Bank, was bailed out by the Federal Reserve, that exact amount of money was seen in USDC in that same day. Okay? So, what are they doing with that? Well, conveniently at that time, there was a vote for the protocol that lives under what USDC runs on, which is the base network owned by Coinbase, and that is a second layer on top of the Ethereum network, and that convenient USDC purchase went into Ethereum. And Ethereum being a decentralized autonomous organization, a fancy word that aligns with the energy of Pluto and Aquarius, we also have whatchamacallit? Yeah, that's a statement. And then whatchamacallit, going back to that, essentially what happened is that quote unquote, I think it went into like ETH or like staked ETH or something like that. But basically, the whoever put that money out there got voting power for a specific vote in the Ethereum network to essentially vote on reducing the cost or the payment fees or what's called gas fees for layer two, blockchains, which is what Base is, which is what USDC runs on. And then conveniently, right now between USDC and Coinbase, there are literal free transactions, right? So they voted, like this was like 2-3 years ago, to change that to plan that far in the future for preparing for the evolution of the dollar coming in the later degrees of Pluto and Aquarius, you know? And when you put all that together, it definitely sounds crazy. But, this is all things that you can see, like you can look it up right now, like it's on the interwebs, So as then people on the internet say, the acronym is Dior. Do your own research. But yeah, so that's like some of the depth of Pluto and Aquarius and how it's being used to control XYZ, right? So essentially, it's like, it's free play. Like anybody can do it, right? And this is the whole point of me talking about it during the Mars and Libra live, which is Pluto and Aquarius plus Uranus and Gemini, which is changing the thought forms and the manipulations of how people integrate in groups and acquiring power over it. That's why everybody is saying content is king, because it's the magnetization of human attention and multiplication of that. There's definitely going to be some type of thing in the future. What are you saying? You want me to speak more calmly? That's like when people say they want me to speak slow. There's this thing called playback button. And if you knew my signs, you would know why I speak so aggressively. I was speaking calmly earlier, but now my green tea's kicking in. But anyways, with Mars and Libra plus Uranus and Gemini and that grand Air Trine, it's there's really a lot of ways you could slice it, right? Like I definitely foresee leading up until midterms being like a very chaotic time, But yeah. What's going on here? Yeah. I don't want to jump to conclusions before I start, talking shit, but like, yeah. That's pretty much it. But anyways, with this grand Air Trine, essentially, damn, how long have I been talking for? Oh, 40 minutes, wow. But yeah, with this grand Air Trine, you can slice it a lot of different ways, based off of everything I just said. I don't know. It's like a lot of different things could happen. People could put you on to different technologies. People could put you on to different ways of learning, different forms of knowledge, different information. I'm really not sure of how it will affect you. Yeah. I'm a Gemini. But I got a lot of Martian and Plutonian behind me. But yeah, so it's like, I really don't have an answer for a general effect because it's a grand Air Trine with the chaotic and power planets and Mars. So it's more or less just like something crazy is going to happen in the world and you're going to react to it in a way that either makes you learn more, makes you understand the world better, and makes you understand how, different aspects are going into like life. I don't know. It's really hard to like culminate a level of specificity about it, right? It's like the simplest way I can put it is the world's gonna be crazy. You're gonna have to learn a lot very quickly, and it's gonna be too goddamn much. Like that's the way I would sum it up. My Mars is in Gemini. Yeah. Yeah. If you think I'm handsome, pay the ransom. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But yeah, do you guys have any like specific questions about the Grand Air Trine? Because it's just like, how do I put this? It's a lot. I don't even really know where to start with it. Like, it's like very sign dependent. Depends on what your air house is, because like if you have all of the air signs in like a water house or a fire house or an earth house or an air house, it'll affect you differently. You know? You funny beans. But yeah, like I said, guys, it's really, I don't know, it's anyone's guess. I see a lot of I don't know, I see Trump doing a lot of ass kissing for like getting prepared for midterms. So yeah, I don't know, that's like one of the things that you could like specify, because it's like, you know, the economy has to be up, the things like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, you guys got any questions? What signs do you want me to talk about first? Because we got the all signs reading coming up. Drop your signs. We're doing rising signs. And for those, since so many people are in India, I do tropical or Western astrology. And yeah, so if you do Vedic, I will straight up. Hey, oh, we summoned him. There we go. That's what she said. Not to you, though, because you don't have a girlfriend. Yeah, well, we wanted to. He's my favorite, you know, he's my favorite community manager, we'll put it that way. He knows how to troll with class. Yeah. Bro, you didn't even like the live. Hook your boy up. I demand likes. Double tap the screen. Shit, can I do it? Nope. Oh yeah. What's going on? Look, using my feet. Find them on Feet Finder. There we go. What do you mean, ever thought of going above and beyond signs? I don't even know who that is. Yeah, I do life path numbers. It sounds like some K-pop type shit. I don't even know what that is. But yeah, what is I don't know what you mean by going above and beyond signs. I want that person to answer the question, because I have answers. Yeah, well, I don't know. She probably feels some type of way that you offered a dowry and didn't pay up, you know? I'll be angry about that too. But yeah. Anyways, no one has any other questions. We will get into the all signs reading. Or actually, I will. Your boy needs a tea break, so manage the community for me. I have returned with hot water. Oh man, yo, the fact that you guys are still here blows my mind. Like, more people show up when I leave. I find it hilarious. Yeah, what were we saying? Very watery indeed. Oh. Oh dang, I did it here too. No. My bad. Okay. Alright. Let's start off with Aries. Ooh, let's not do that. Okay. Aries at 53. So Aries is naturally dealing with this in the 7th house. I wouldn't exactly say that it's beneficial or not beneficial at the same time. It's really about them taking a break from, like, essentially this is Aries learning their lesson once again of the square between the 1st house and the 4th house, which is the square of, say, I don't know, what should I call the square? The pioneer's pulpit, something like that. But yeah, whatchamacallit. So essentially you can look at this like they're dealing with the fact that Aries does a lot of things, not for their own inspiration, not for their own abundance. So right now Mars is giving them a lesson in their own sense of partnerships, power plays, and like finding peace without losing dominance, because you know that's what they really want. And when it comes to the energy of finding peace without dominance, you can look at it like, you know, real strength whispers. It comes from energy. Um, Man, you really took a long ass time to say that. That seems like an over explanation of what I'm already doing. Okay, so back to Aries. So it's essentially what it is reminding you that to create balance within yourself, you need to focus on your own perspective, your own power, your own understanding, and recognizing that you don't have to, you know, shift your energy to others. You can shift it to yourself, and people will naturally be attracted to your own abundance, your own inner beauty, your own form of excitement that drives you, you know? So that's kind of what we're dealing with in regards to that. Now, let's pull some cards for the old, whatchamacallit? The old, the old Aries sign and how Mars and Libra is going to influence them. Okay, so let's do a past, present, and future lesson on Mars in Aries, and essentially figure out what they got to learn in regards to, you know, keeping their fire in their own furnace and understanding soft power for themselves. Okay, so past, present, future. Okay, so the lesson that Aries is finally integrating is lifting the veil, questioning everything. Anything on a line must go. And that is a personification of what I was literally saying in regards to Aries, like, doing it for other people. Aries doing it for other experiences. Aries focusing so deeply on what other people want instead of what they want, you know? And just doing it because they like the excitement of adding to just, I don't know, like, they just be focusing on, like, they care about being seen as a leader, a savior, and a pioneer, and they don't really focus on what they want, you know? So that's pretty much what's going on. Now, the current card that they're learning is the I'm Sorry card. We haven't gotten this one in a while. It says defenselessness, righting past wrongs, uprooting. And honestly, they're working on the relationship with themselves. You know, Aries is working on the relationship with their own internal state, their own internal space, their own internal energies, and they're focusing on, like, recognizing that they spent so much time caring about what other people want and caring about how other people need them that they neglected, like, themselves, you know? So they got to learn how to be sorry to themselves and just focus on their own energies, right? And, you know, Aries, they feel the same way about I'm sorry's, the same way like most people do, where it's like, yeah, that's cool, you're sorry, like, it's a first step, but like the root cause is me wanting you to have a different action, you know? Like, that's what we want. That's what that's what they really want, you know? Like, it's that simple. And their future thing is you're not alone, right? So when they're focusing on what they want, that's going to be scary because they're still addicted to the energy of people praising and needing them in some way, shape, or form, right? So they're going to have to recognize that isolation, physical connection, and community is going to pop up for them. So that's where it comes to that soft power of, like, you need to be willing to walk away, you know? So it's just like, if you're in a relationship or a romantic relationship, like, this is the energy of, like, saying it, meaning it, and living it by saying, there's no locks on that door. If you like it, you can go. I'll help you. I'll pay for the Uber. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's stuff like that. Nah, he probably just got bored. Like, he'd be scrolling and then, like, remember when he was complaining about how, he, what's the word? Like, I don't know. Like, he was just, like, scrolling on the last live being like, you're stuck in my algorithm. And I was like, yeah, man, you gotta watch me. Give me your watch time. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much Aries. It's summed up in realizing that they're the most individualistic sign, living for others, apologizing to themselves, and then they got, you know, they got to accept that they got to be on their own sometimes, and they just got to kick it. That's pretty much it. Now let's move on to Taurus. All right. Okay, so Taurus, right? Whatchamacallit? So Taurus is essentially dealing with Mars in their 6th house. So you can look at this as like, this is their time to beautify their routines, declutter their energy, and say no with style, right? So when it comes to saying no, I sort of see this as kind of a tough thing, right? Because Taurus is reintegrating their ability to essentially socialize and share their routines with others. So when people want them to say no and they want to, you know, make their rituals sacred, essentially what they're dealing with is a concept of, you know, their self-worth is being reflected in a way that they care for their bodies, right? And how much time they spend taking care of their bodies, extending longevity, experiencing things of that nature, you know? So when it comes to Taurus and that energy, they are working on their routines, their work, and what makes them excited to be them, you know? So essentially with the way that they would normally either be lazy or rush towards something and have no in between, they're finding a way to experience that in between energy of doing things on time, being peaceful, and not relying on the expectations of others to essentially like hold them to a certain standard or regard in, you know, regards to like what they would expect from them, right? Like it's not necessary. It's not exactly what they want. It's not the energy that is aligned with them. Now let's pull some cards for them Tauresians. Okay, so past, present, future lessons for Taurus during Mars and Libra. Okay, so their past lesson for Taurus is, damn, they got the I'm sorry card too. This is showing up a lot where it's like a lot of sacrificing of selves, and I guess, you know, Mars being the individualistic planet and the planet of relationships, it's about relationships with self. So essentially what we got going on is, like I said, defenselessness, righting past wrongs, uprooting. Taurus needs that because they're the, you know, ground that paces the seed. Essentially, like what I was saying in one of my last readings for Taurus is that they were doing a whole lot of jack shit. So basically, like Tauruses were, they were focused on, how can I put this? What were they focused on? Tauruses were focused on like, I don't know, just like instead of like going out there and being in the world and being stable like Earth, they were negating a lot of different aspects of life, and they were just doing nothing, right? So they got to apologize to themselves for being like, wow, I wasted a lot of time. There's a difference between protecting my energy and actually going out in the world. Now the next thing they got is they also got the, did we get all the same card? No, okay, we didn't. They got the I'm not alone card as well. So essentially what that is recognizing that, like, you know, if you're isolating yourself to your routines or you're not doing any routines, you might as well do something with people, you know what I'm saying? You might as well socialize. You might as well be in a certain space to where you can experience those energies of abundance. You can experience those opportunities for what you have going on, right? So when it comes to them recognizing that they're like, I just wasted so much time telling myself I was protecting my energy, but I was really being lazy, you know? And that's kind of what Taurus is going through. Now, their future lesson is the empathic starseed card, to where it's like energetic sovereignty, absorbing what's not yours. I see that as like a reintegration period back into, I don't know, the world of them like not doing anything. So it's kind of like, I don't know, Taurus is, they just been lazy, man. They ain't been doing nothing. They just been farting around. They've been in this space of where they're like, I'm protecting my energy, but at the same time with them protecting their energy, they're doing nothing, right? So when they get out into the world, they're gonna feel a lot. They're gonna experience a lot. They're gonna do all these things that aren't exactly like aligned with them. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just doing all this stuff where it's just like, come on, Taurus, like you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna be doing that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean that's pretty much Taurus for you. Now moving on to Gemini. Okay. So Gemini, right? Gemini's dealing with this in their Mars and Libra in their 5th house. So their creativity is rising, but so is compassion. So is comparison. So is, you know, expressing things that they need to perform. But kind of like when we're dealing with Gemini in the 5th house, we're dealing with the way Geminis learn. We're dealing with the way Geminis experience. We're dealing with the energy of Gemini being in such a space to where they are, how do I put this? I don't know. They just be like, what do these Geminis be up to? Like, so Geminis like to socialize and they like to adapt, which leads them to really struggle with their boundaries because they are essentially adapting to a certain energy of, oh, this is nice. They're adapting to a certain energy of, like, just anybody and everybody around them because they feel as though that if they adapt to a certain mentality, they have something to learn, right? They have something to experience. They have something to obsess over in a way and really just, like, lose themselves in the mentality of others with such an energy of creativity and chaos that they can almost, like, learn anything, right? But it's just, like, you're learning anything and everything at the cost of, I don't know, like losing yourself, focusing on other people, experiencing other energies. And when it comes to the idea of, you know, not waiting for applause or adapting to other people and like, you know, people pleasing in some way for the purpose of, you know, being able to, I don't know, tap into their entire mentality and all the knowledge that they have and all the knowledge that you could use for yourself. Geminis, they gotta make joy their reward. They gotta make what they're interested in their reward, you know? Like, I'm a Gemini. I'm interested in talking about astrology. I'm a Gemini sun, though, so it's not necessarily like this reading is kind of for me, but not really. I gotta wait for, like, my rising sign. But, essentially what's going on with that is, like, you know, it's like Geminis just gotta, like, basically what everybody's dealing with in Mars and Libra is they're understanding a relationship with themselves and how they sacrifice themselves in their own unique way for other people and the support of others. And it's just like, you know, I don't know how to put it. It's just easier, like, to be self-reliant. And by caring for yourself and your own reflection in the universe, it's easier for you to succeed in such a way that is, I don't know, beneficial to yourself and something that you actually enjoy. Like, it really is that simple. Oh, wait, we didn't even pull the cards for Gemini yet. I've really just been talking. Okay, let's pull the cards for Gemini's Sun, Moon, and Ascendant to mostly your Ascendant or Rising sign for the past, present, and future lessons during Mars in Libra. So the first card they got for the past lessons is the Great Severing. They got Mars energy, anger, conflict, softening the love. So essentially what they're doing is, you know, the lesson is like, hey man, like you severed from yourself. You know that. You know that you do this, Gemini. You know that you sever from yourself. You know that you take a break. You know that you don't do these things. Like, just chill out. And remember that, like, severing from yourself is not going to always be the answer and not always going to be something that you need to rely on in order to learn and adapt to what others want, right? So when we talk about that, we talk about the present lesson. The present lesson is trust the timing. Fun card. Geminis don't really do that for sure. So trust the timing. It says trust the wave you came in on. Time is not running out. You know? So their present lesson is like, just because you're not adapting, just because you're not learning, just because you're not stimulating that Gemini aspect of the nervous system, which is going out and ironically expressing yourself. It's like the most masculine feminine side, you know what I'm saying? To where it's like you're going out and you're adapting, but you're doing it for the purpose of thought, which is like a very feminine dynamic way to go towards something masculine. Does that make any sense? So it's like, I don't know, it's a real clusterfuck. But the next card they got for future lessons is Star Brothers. Star Brothers is Horus energy, protection, loyalty, safety, trust. When we think of Horus, we think of the sun. We're talking about Gemini's solar plexus right now. So what they're doing is they have to release. Remember that they're not getting that darn dopamine hit from, you know, separating from themselves and going to da-da-da-da-da-da and blah, 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 and, you know, adapting themselves in such a way to where it's like, this is what they got going on. This is what they want to experience, you know? And essentially what they have is an opportunity to focus on that sun energy, focus on what brings them their creative, and right, just come back to the sense that, like, make the joy of what you're doing the reward rather than adapting and changing yourself to all the information that you could possibly ever want, right, Gemini? So yeah, that's pretty much it, you know? It's stop cutting yourself off. No instant gratification. You can experience your own joy all you want. It's not that hard. And so on and so forth. Now, let's get on to the next one, which will be Cancer. Okay. Cancer. Cancer. Pappy. Pappy. Okay. So Cancer, we're dealing with Mars in their 4th house. They're being asked to lead from their inner temple, build boundaries, build within, you know, their home, not just outside. This is the take a sip. I mean, this is really saying the same thing I've been saying about Cancer all Leo season, which is, you know, them lazy sons of bitches been building their boundaries and not operating out of self-love rather than, you know, fear. So essentially what Cancer's doing is they're just, I don't know, they just gotta learn how to build their boundaries off of self-love, right? They're just doing stupid shit. Kind of fearing, letting the outer world create their emotions rather than their inner world create their emotions. Which pretty much sums it up, you know? Like, they gotta do them for them, you feel me? They gotta do things that they like. They gotta do things that they want to experience. They gotta do things that they need. And they gotta just focus on them, right? Like, rebuild their foundations from a space of self-love. Rebuilding their foundations from a space of peace. Rebuilding their foundations from a space of abundance and opportunity and their ability to, like, you know, just be and not necessarily rely on the pain that they feel and the pain they experience and the pain stuck in their nervous system for them to, like, I don't know, just like be them, you know? Stop doing all this extra stuff, ignoring the powers that were naturally gifted to you, right? Like, Cancers have that natural ability to walk in a room and create the vibe. They have that natural ability to walk into a room and create an opportunity and control the emotional vibration of the realm. And yet they don't do it, right? Yeah. Hey, he's back. So yeah, that's pretty much the vibe for Cancer. Offer your dowry, bro. Go learn how to troll in an Xbox Live chat. There we go. Alright, so let's pull the cards for Cancer. Past, present, and future. What is the past, present, and future lesson for Cancer during Mars in Libra or Libra or Libra? You know, something that, whatchamacallit, something that, you know, the middle school boys want to touch. Okay, past, present, and future lessons for Mars and Libra for Cancer. Past, present, future. All right, we talked about Cancer, right? What are you saying? Why am I... Well, dude, man, these skinny arms. That's why I'm weak. The homie Joe can't... I can't even do a pull-up or a push-up. Psych. I can do at least one. Okay, so the past lesson for Cancers is a new Earth. Essentially what we have going on here with that is... how do I put this? So, you know, it's happening. Keep holding on to the vision. This is what I was talking about in regards to Cancers and their nervous systems being based on the experiences of fear that has built their sense of boundaries and their experiences. So it's like, essentially what's going on with that is an opportunity for them to just like, you know, remember that if they want to change, they have a change. Do I have plans to go to Monaco in the near future? I actually do. But it's gonna be like next summer. But yeah, so essentially what's going on is like they just gotta stick with it. They gotta hold on to the vision. They gotta hold on to those experiences. Now the next thing they're doing is they got the called card, right? So the called card is soul gifts, training. It's time to step up. This is what I was speaking to in regards to sure, man. I hope it's nice. Essentially what they got going on is soul gifts. It's time to step up. Basically what this is, it's just what I was saying about the cardinal earth. It's saying what I was saying about the cardinal energies. Yeah, of course I've seen that. It's hilarious. Essentially what it is I don't know, man, like it's just basically them, like, they got to understand that they control the emotional vibes of a room. It's that simple. Cancer has to recognize that. Cancer has to experience that. Cancer has to step up and actually build their boundaries off of self-love rather than fearful experiences, right? You know, they don't have to walk around with a soft shell. They can recognize that they can build and create their own shell just like a hermit crab. When you grow, you go, you know? Now, the next sign they have is the star family, right? So Mars and Libra is teaching them, is specifically from their 4th house, of you're part of a team of souls, call in support. I see this as like you have the opportunity to you have the opportunity to create your family rather than rely on the, you know, the one you got or the one you were born to. Like, if they're not feeling your dreams, if they're not supporting you in any way, shape, or form, cut them off, right? Like, how you train people is by the energy and the attention you give them, right? So if they're not listening, if they're not willing to speak to you and experience the results of just adult conversation, then get out of there. Like, don't do that. Don't build your foundation and your emotional boundaries or your inner temple on the energies of someone just being so annoying or someone being like not supportive of you, you know? Like, that's what it is, Cancer. Like, that's the foundation at the end of the day. You have to go back to your origins. You have to go back to your childhood. You have to go back to where it all began in terms of like your early childhood programming, right? Because that's your foundation. That's where you boot from. That's where you start. And if you don't change it, it'll change you, you know? Mr. X, that is ironically aligned with what I was just talking about, but, you know, you're still a beefed out rooster, so fuck you. All right, now let's move on to Leo. The entire reason I can post a link and get another 500 views on this video for Leos. Okay, so Leo is dealing with this in the 3rd house. Essentially what they got going on is, you know, they got to recognize that words are their weapons. They're deceivingly people-pleasing. And they have to make sure that they're laced in truth, not ego, right? So essentially it's speak what you crave, not what you fear. And Mars and Libra in the, you know, the 3rd house is like, it's the same energy as, what was him? It's the same energy as, how do I put this? It's the same energy as Aries, of where they have a need for leadership and pioneering and to be followed. Yo, what? Bro, you be cracking me up. Shouts out to the penthouse in Monaco. But yeah, anyways, so when we're talking about Leo, essentially what we have going on with Leo is like they have to recognize that they like the energy of leadership more than they like the energy of their own focus and creativity. And that's what they need to focus on. They need to focus on that energy of creativity. They need to focus on that energy of abundance. And they're speaking a lot of sweet words to anybody that's willing to follow them, and they're willing to build a vision around what people are willing to essentially pay their attention to, right? Which is like good if you're willing to organize somebody, but like at the end of the day, you're still a soul, you're still a spirit, you're still yeah, dude, I got that Indian hair. Essentially what they have going on is what was I saying? Essentially what they have going on is recognizing that like as a soul, you incarnated here for a purpose, you incarnated here for a reason, and essentially extracting that or leaning into that and focusing on that is the core and the root of what is going to give you what you truly desire, which is the energy from people, the ability to lead, the ability to focus a team on a vision, right? Get an organization aligned around a vision. That is what's, Leo wants to do and Leo wants to experience, right? So what we have going on with that, Scorpio's coming up. They just have to speak what they crave, not what they fear, right? And what they fear is not being seen and not having the energy and attention of others, right? Because it's like they're the sun. They want people to revolve around them. They want people to revolve around their vision or creating a proxy, right? And that's a whole other thing that we kind of talked about during the Grand Air Trine when it comes to creating a proxy for the purpose of extracting views and, personal data and blah, 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 blah. But anyways, let's do the reading for Leo. So let's do past, present, and future lessons for the energies of Leo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants while they're dealing with the transits of Mars and Libra. Future. Let's see what card pops up, dog. Hey, they got the Fall Into My Arms card. It looks cool, but it's kind of boring. Surrender. Holding to the opposites, the extremes of life. This is saying, hey, Leo, you're doing all this extra shit for views, for attention, for the energy of others, right? And it's not necessarily what you want. It's not what you want to experience. You want to do it for yourself. You want to do it for what you incarnated for. You want to do it for what you're experiencing, right? Now, their present lesson for Leos or Leos is loosen your grip, coping mechanisms, destiny, addiction, let God in. That's what I was saying in regards to, well, that feels funny. That was weird. Essentially what it's saying is like stop relying on other people for the experience of like what you need to create and what you incarnated for, right? Because their future lesson is the 7 star sisters, Pleiades, the 7 stars that align with the lesbian car brand, So essentially what that says is birth and creations, tapestries of life, expression. All of that energy of you're a soul that incarnated to lead in some way, shape, or form, and you would figure out what that is instead of just chasing what other people want, right? That's pretty much the energies of Leo, where it's just like, homie, you sacrificed yourself. You're too attached to energy rather than your own purpose. And then, hey, man, now that you finally got through that, get to creating. Speed it up. Stop being a bum. Things like that. A lot of these alignments are very simple across all signs in just different ways, which I'm finding interesting. Like, it's like 3 to 6 have basically the same reading, just in a different way. But they still need their own individual reading to isolate what they need to learn. Moving on to Virgos. My Virgo as a sign is growing on me, but I still have my discrepancies with low vibrational Virgos. What is that? Well, As you can tell, I am doing my readings by a lexicographical organizing algorithm, which basically means I am going in order. So it's coming up. Now, when it comes to Virgo, Virgo is having Libra in their second house, so they're learning the value of, you know, their own value. Oh, that's cool, man. I'll look it up later. If you want, I can put it all in live so everybody can go congregate as a mob right around your house in Monaco. So, yeah. Essentially what's going on is, you know, their value is not up for negotiation, but that's something they really need to tell themselves. They have to align their energy with their work. And essentially what the oracle, before the oracle reading says, is you don't have to prove your power. Let your presence do the work, right? Because during Leo seasons, Virgos are taking a break, man. They're taking a step back. They're recognizing that they obsess over other people's visions because they see a path or a way that they can fit themselves in and kind of be like, you know, a very adaptable, helpful person in a way. To where it's like they want to support, they want to be the ultimate executive secretary for whatever project they get obsessed with. And they have to recognize that, like, no one asked. Sure, it's helpful, but since you started off by no one asking, and you just being extremely helpful in a way that nobody requested, the classic mechanism for society on Earth is people confuse service with servitude. So when it comes to the concept of their value not being up for negotiation, like, what do you think is going to happen, right? What do you think is going to expect? What do you think is going to, there's no donation menu because my channel is not monetized. If you want to make a donation, I have a Beans, post the Beacons link and it's in there. But yeah, that's why I'm going live so much so I can get a watch time to monetize my channel, because I got a lot of subscribers from shorts. And, you know, you need like 10 million shorts views in a couple months to actually get it monetized that way. So it's a bunch of stuff. But he has a penthouse, he says. But yeah, anyways, when it comes back to Virgo, yeah, you can find stuff in here. So when it comes to the energy of Virgo, essentially they have to learn how to recognize their value and not, whatchamacallit. Yeah, you need 10 million shorts views. It's a lot, dude. I don't know, I have like, I got at least a couple million. Oh, that's cool. Kinda. It's Monaco, you know. They had a couple locations in their portfolio. But yeah, anyways, Virgo is like, it's about sacrificing their own boundaries, about sacrificing their own experiences, but like the real problem is like they're the ones giving it away. They're the ones giving it off. They're the ones that are like they're the ones that are just letting it rip and just like giving it away for free, right? So it's more or less their self-worth, their self-value, their obsession with like what they're willing to offer. And it's a whole thing, right? So what is going on with the Virgo energy? Let's just do the oracle card reading. So past, present, future lessons for Virgo risings while Mars transits Libra. Okay, the past lesson is the courageous peony. Multifaceted, unique nature, let yourself be seen. That's essentially what they use to stroke their ego, being like, oh wow, I have a lot of skills. I can adapt myself to numerous situations. I can help cultivate a cohesive organization or, you know, standard operating procedure for whatever project I really set my mind to, right? So it is innately useful. However, it is, how do I say? it's I don't know. It's like they're just not valuing themselves. They're just being like, oh, I'm going to coming up in 2 signs, dude. But yeah, so the next sign is we are the Hearthers, deep love, mother's milk, birth is a portal. So they're recognizing that their creative abilities, their because it's the sign of beauty, dude. That's why. But yeah, it's, you know, Venus and blah 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 blah. Beauty standards. They run beauty standards. If you think of Libras, think of what's that card game? That one card game, where it's like all about like, oh, Cards Against Humanity. It's like that one card in Card Against Humanity where it's just like the 7 gay warlocks that rule the world of fashion. You know, that's Libra. They're probably all Libras. So with the We Are the Hearthers card, essentially they need to recognize their own value. It's what I was saying about self-worth. It's what I was saying about appreciating. It's what I was saying about recognizing what they have to offer to the world and how they can give, right? So when it comes to that, essentially what's going on is they have an opportunity to, how do I put this? Basically, like, I don't know, if they just sit down and shut up and focus on what they want, they can just like stop wasting their time focusing on projects that no one asked for their help for, you know? So that's pretty much what it is. Oh, I need this. I want this little massagey thing. Alright, that's too far to get. Never mind. Okay. So, yeah, so the next thing I got is, that's wild. So the next card they got is the Star Keepers card. The Star Keepers card is cosmic ancestors see the light by staying grounded. Essentially what that is their future lesson of they will have some type of metric or observation or something to focus on in regards to, like, they're going to have something to focus on in regards to, like, I don't know, like, they'll actually focus on something that they feel called to. They're actually going to focus on something that they feel aligned with. They're actually going to focus on something that is not just like, whatchamacallit? You want me to go ride a bike? Why do I have to go ride a bike? Nah, man, God created the zodiacs. If you're curious about like what an, I don't know, it's like the cusp of like Pisces and Aries, I would say. I don't know. No, God like didn't even create the zodiacs. God created the, Jesus was Pisces, triple Pisces. No, God is not a combo of all the zodiacs. Don't say some stupid shit like that. God, like, in terms of zodiacs, God created the entities that created the zodiac wheel, so it's like a couple steps removed. You feel me? But yeah, but anyways, Virgo needs to move up, move on, and just like recognize their own value. You know, they're doing too much that no one asked for, like they always are, and then they're being annoying about it and saying, I don't have self-worth, and it's just like, no, you do. Don't just like go home, go take a nap. Like, people value your efforts, but no one asked for it, so you already started it off like, we can use you. Go away, we don't respect that. Now, moving on to Libra, which is followed by Scorpio. What time is it? Okay. I should know his zodiac sign, and I just said it, so what do you want from me? So when we go to Libra, Libra is this is the home sign, right? They're gonna feel a fire under their ass to do something. So when it comes to Libra, essentially what we have going on is it's time to lead. It's time to lead with softness, certainty, and then recognize the, I don't know, Libras are gonna go through this whole tirade of personal branding, of where it's like they gotta recognize their own brand, their own energy, their, you know, recognizing that grace is their weapon and authenticity is their armor, right? So instead of doing a similar air sign thing where they're sacrificing themselves for something that is not as beautiful as it could be. They are in this space of essentially focusing on like they're focusing on codependence as an energy. So it's like they're learning how to balance that out for people. They're learning how to be more selective. They're learning how to be more focused in terms of their perspective on just when to be diplomatic in any situation. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question, That's a good question. She volunteered it as her job, so yeah. But yeah, Libras are focusing on different aspects of what's the word? They're focusing on different aspects of just life, understanding, recognizing when to associate themselves with certain diplomatic situations, when to right wrongs, when to fix problems, when to do XYZ, So let's pull the cards on them Libras. So Libra, past, present, future lessons for Mars and Libra in their first house. Tell them what the past, present, future lessons are. Past, present, future. So their past lesson is inner earth. You'll survive this. New solutions and beginnings. Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. Wow. So beautiful. And then, yeah, fly her out to your penthouse, dog. Essentially what that means is they're, recognize that they're a bit too giving. They're recognizing that they're a bit too open with what they have to offer to the world. They're recognizing that they have a bit too much going on with what they see, and that comes to their present lesson, which is lifting the veil, questioning everything, anything unaligned must go, which is a lot of the extra work that they're doing in terms of mitigating and doing diplomatic things with relationships that they just shouldn't. So it's almost noon for me. So when it comes to Libras, they have to recognize that they have a double mission. They have, light worker starseed. They serve the world by being them. And I can't imagine my life in 6 months. So essentially what's going on is they are, Libras are recognizing that they have a lot more purpose with what they adapt to, what they alleviate, and how they support others. So essentially it's an opportunity for them to recognize that, like, the diplomacy that they seek to provide for a lot of people is valuable. It's purposeful. It's abundant, right? I don't even know what you're saying. Essentially what's going on is they are, they got to recognize that, like, they can't just be helping everybody, right? But if they help the right person, that could change their life. Like, if you help Mr. X find a wife that he could actually like and offer his dowry to, he'd probably be happy. He'd probably be much more appreciative. He'd probably be much more, happy to share his penthouse with somebody. Like, that's the vibe of what we want right now. Libras need to be more selective, right? If you help someone like that, there's a lot of abundance that could come with that, and so on and so forth. Now, moving on to Scorpio, because we got people asking for it, we got people waiting for it, and, I can think of at least 3 people that need Scorpio readings. Let's get on. Okay. So, Scorpio. Yeah, That was funny. So Scorpio is dealing with some interesting things. With Mars transiting the 12th house, they're dealing with a lot of hidden anger, subconscious drive. And they got to recognize that it's a purge, right? It's a purge from their subconscious. Don't force the fire. You got to keep the fire in your own furnace, which is like, taking anger out on a lot of other people, taking a lot of drive out on a lot of other things, and recognizing that you need to, be focused on yourself, right? So essentially what they need to recognize is that, like, their silence is not emptiness, it's sacred preparation. It's similar to Virgo, but better. It's similar to a lot of different energies, but not quite. And it's an opportunity for them to essentially recognize that, like, they're powerful beings. They have a lot going on, and they need to purge a lot of relational energies that aren't as beneficial as they think, right? Because they're spending a lot of time, a lot of emotional energy, and a lot of attention on the expectations of others, the expectations of other people around them. And they need to recognize that, like, I know you want to help people. I know you want to dissect what's going on within, the psyche and almost be like detective-like. Excuse me. But it's not necessarily the energy you should be on. It's not focusing on yourself. It's not focusing on your own internal necessities, right? So it's just like the general vibe for Mars and Libra for every sign so far has been, how are you sacrificing yourself for the motivations of others that they might not even want? And it's more or less your projection on what you expect they are driven by, Like, that's what we're dealing with Scorpio here, right? So it's taking a purge. It's taking time. It's taking an energy to essentially be purposeful with whatever they got going on. So yeah, so let's do the reading for Scorpios. Past, present, and future lessons for Scorpio. Sun, moon, but mostly ascendants. Okay, past, present, future. No, not game over. Keep trying, Mr. X. So, what Scorpio is dealing with, their past lessons, is they're dealing with lost lands, right? So it says soul memories, gifts. You've done this before. So it's a certain karmic, I'll say karmic relationship because I don't have a word for it, but it's just karmic energy in general. Something from a past life, maybe a different time in life, a different expectation in life, and recognizing that, whatchamacallit, man, I'll get to it when I get to it. Save that question for later. I'm doing readings right now. We got a couple more to go, but we'll get to that. There's a lot of history behind it. Essentially what's going on is Scorpios are being reminded of certain energies, and they need a lot of time and patience with themselves to be able to understand and integrate that, right? So they may be cutting people off. They may be cutting certain energies off. They may be cutting certain experiences off, and they may need to just take a lot of time with themselves to really just kind of like sulk, Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, essentially what they got going on with their current lesson is all paths lead to home. So inner authority, intuition, turn their gaze within. Anytime you have a strong 12th house alignment, it's basically an energy of seclusion. It's an energy of release. It's an energy of abundance. It's an energy of opportunity to essentially sit and collect yourself in such a way that like there's no specific way to do it. It's more or less just taking time to have peace with yourself, to sit with yourself, and really recognize what you want to do and recognize how you've been adding too much or too little onto your life, right? Like it's like a cosmic winter. And the next thing we got is earth pulsing, right? Earth pulsing is pulse of the mother, slow down, time in nature. Essentially what that is just recognizing that Scorpios are going to integrate like a lot of like seclusion time, because their natural mechanism of being the fixed water sign leads them to, I guess you could say, fester and focus on emotions for too much. And essentially, yes, I am. And essentially just dive deep into, how do I say? They're diving deep into a lot of emotions that aren't them, like, because they're deeply empathic, they're deeply observant, and they feel emotions much more deep than essentially what they got going on, right? So, which meant, see, right here, you're missing the point of, I'm not Indian. I don't do free readings on YouTube Live just cause. So, figure it out. Essentially what we got going on with Scorpio is basically mysticism. Basically, they just gotta recognize that they need a lot of time to themselves. They need to take a lot of salt baths. They need to do a lot of water magic in regards to like just putting their like. So during this time with Mars and Libra, I would highly recommend that Scorpios put their feet in an ocean, where they put their feet in some type of moving water to symbolize whatchamacallit. Essentially, yeah, it does. There's a huge trend of Indian astrologers doing free readings on YouTube Live. So, yeah, like that's mostly people doing Vedic astrology in that Southeastern Asian part of the world. But yeah, but anyways, essentially Scorpios need to put their feet. So here, let me explain this. So your feet is your 12th house. Most Scorpios have Libra in their 12th house, and they need to put that in water or some type of salt water or some type of just like moving water to symbolize them releasing the subconscious emotions, ideas that are stuck in their body, and essentially, I already said mysticism, and essentially let that release in such a way to where they can have it cleared and removed and not necessarily fester on emotions that aren't even theirs, you know? Beans, drop the link if you want to do donations. Oh. So yeah, I have a link in the description if you want to do donations. I'm working on getting my YouTube channel monetized so I can just not have all the extra stuff. But I appreciate it nonetheless. But yeah, that's pretty much Scorpio. You know, they're taking on too much from the world. They're forgetting the fact that they're very empathic and they're festering on emotions that aren't even theirs most of the time. So watch out. Thank you. But yeah, if you guys want to do donations, I got a link in all my readings right there. I highly recommend getting a lot of my free guides. They're very insightful. And they will change your life in ways you didn't know because nobody knows the style of astrology that I do because I invented it. I ain't even going to dive into that, dog. Now, Sagittarius. Okay, so let's get into Sagittarius, dog. So Sagittarius is that was funny. So they have Mars in their 11th house. It's gonna be collective calling. They're like, there's a potential to be leading a community in some way, and like setting the tone and vibe for your tribe. So, but it's like it's not necessarily that. It's more or less recognizing. You're basically just picking up where Leos are kind of like leaving off and taking a little break. So essentially what they got going on is Libras are, you know, they're taking a break in terms of what they want, what they have going on. And what Sagittarius is doing is they're kind of like taking over in terms of setting that energy, focusing that light, focusing that purpose, and essentially recognizing what? I don't even know what you're saying, man. You're not like speaking cohesively. So Sagittarius is essentially like they're kind of so one, they're recognizing the energy of sure, go for it. So what Sagittarius is kind of recognizing is that like they're picking up for the dreams that like Libra and Leo left off, and they're like guiding people in a way, but they're also recognizing that in themselves they are whatchamacallit, they are I don't know, it's like they're getting a new sense of shine and energy, and essentially that's funny. They're getting a new sense of shine and energy, and they're not used to it, right? So it's like they're calling in their collective. They're recognizing that they don't have to shine alone, but they're starting to like that shine. They're starting to like the attention. They're starting to like experiencing optimism from an outward perspective rather than inward, if that makes any sense. So with that being said, let's pull the reading for Sagittariuses. Oh. Past, present, future lessons for Sagittarius during Mars in Libra. That one dropped. Hey, you can't abuse that woman until you give her last name. Okay, so the past lesson for Sagittarius is loosen your grip. Coping mechanisms, density, addiction, let God in, right? So they're getting a little bit addicted to the energy of, how do I put this? They're getting addicted to the energy of being seen, being appreciated, being, you know, cherished in some way for their optimism instead of them being optimism in some way, shape, or form, right? Essentially what they have going on is they're recognizing their creativity, and then they are recognizing the messenger energy, right? So essentially what's going on is they're too addicted to external optimism and shine. They have to focus on their own creative energies and adapt to their star family. And then they recognize that they have a message. They have an ability to share with the public by getting them collectively excited about the same thing, right? Sharing excitement, sharing optimism, sharing energy, and essentially finding a way to give that message in such a way that is creating harmony and balance with themselves mostly. So yeah, it's pretty much Sagittarius. Like, it's not anything too creative. It's more or less just them recognizing that they're getting shine and sharing optimism in something that they normally keep in their head, right? Capricorn, right? So Capricorn. Capricorn is dealing with Mars in their 10th house. This is kind of weird because it's like authority meets authenticity. They're learning how to move with purpose and not pressure. And let me get some water. Essentially what we're dealing with Capricorn is they're recognizing whatchamacallit, creative. Essentially what's going on with Capricorn is they are, you know, they're gaining a lot of inner authority. They're gaining a lot of perspectives. They are gaining a lot of understanding of essentially what's going on with, they're essentially going on, like, I don't know. It's like, so when we're dealing with Capricorn, we have to go back to the origins of their first house, which is they feel the need to chase status. They feel, thank you. They feel the need to, like, I don't know. It's just like it's the same thing as when Christians come in here and be like, I'm not waffling. I'm focusing on what you're saying instead of focusing on the topic of what I need to say. Because I'm getting distracted by you following a very consistent archetype that's similar to Christians saying, have you ever read the Bible, when they don't recognize they're the biggest affiliate marketer ever. And you are coming at what I'm saying with a very, like, basic argument, and you're not recognizing that this entire study and mythology that you say it is how the entire world calculates time. So, you know, it's like the days of the week are named after it. The hours on the clock are named after it. Literally, there's so much ancient mythology and energy behind it within every single governmental building. So while you're saying the most basic things like, oh, he has lapses in his speech, it's all like, you know, like, where's the evidence in your understanding to even come against this ideology of what I'm saying, you know? So that's what I'm saying. But anyways, when it comes to Capricorn, essentially what they're dealing with is an energy of, you know, you're funny. Essentially what we have going on with the Capricorn energy is they are really dealing with the origins of their upbringing in such a way, which is essentially them feeling like they need to do something and not necessarily focusing on what they want to do, what they want to experience, what they want to essentially aggregate and make happen, right? So what's going on with the fact that Capricorn is, you know, in this space of feeling pressure and not moving with their purpose, they have to understand that it is self-created by their own ascendant, right? Because they feel the need to be the leader. They feel the need to be accomplished. They feel the need to be on top of things in such a way to where it's like, hello, to where it's like they gotta learn how to they gotta learn how to do them for them, right? They're learning they're learning that they're experiencing a self-created codependent energy on themselves, and with Mars and Libra moving through their 10th house, they're recognizing how much drive they have and how much status they have created. That's funny beans. They're recognizing how much like of their status is based on the expectations and drive of others, right? So let's pull the cards for Capricorn. Capricorn, past, present, and future lessons during Mars in Libra, which is from August 6th through September 22nd. So their past lesson is the I Remember card. It's the soul's plan. It's the fated life versus destiny life. I see this as more of them harping on old energies and old expectations that were programmed into them in some way, shape, or form. And essentially, well, yeah, aren't you in Europe? It's closer to bedtime for you. I thought it was like dinner time, but whatever. Oh yeah, right. No, I'm like 9 hours behind you. But yeah, so basically what they have going on is they're remembering not necessarily like what their origins were or what their aura is or what they're experiencing in some way. They're remembering who they were before they were programmed in some way. They're remembering who they were before people forced their will on them. They're remembering who they were before people saw that they put a bunch of self-expectations on them. And that's funny. And yeah, I don't know. They're just remembering that like there was a space and time before they were them, you know? And what we have going on with their present lesson is the perspective card. So what they have is none of this matters. Zoom out. Find common ground, right? So they have to find an alignment between what they feel people want from them and what they want from themselves, right? Because they have to learn how to adapt. They have to learn how to open themselves up. They have to learn how to really just recognize that all those ideas in their head about who they need to be and what they have going on, they need to find a purpose like outside of that. They need to find a purpose out of those expectations and take time to remember what they got, you know? Because the last card they got is the You Got the Love card, right? So Hedarian energy, codependency, boundaries. Recognizing their boundaries with their status and not devoting their entire life into the needs of other people. So that's what Capricorn did at the end of the day. And they convinced themselves otherwise because society told them, you have to get a job, you have to go to college, you have to do this thing, you have to be doctor, lawyer, professor, you know, like the very like Asian parent focus on what Capricorns need to be. But they didn't do it. But it's like no one outside of them really did it. They did it themselves, you know? So that's what Capricorn's dealing with. Now let's move on to Aquarius. No, I dropped it. Yo, Mr. X number 1. Not at all, really. This was for Capricorn, sun, moons, but mostly risings, because I'm doing it by like a house-based reading. Yeah, I really like, I don't know, there's not much to get into in regards to that. Like there is, but it's like not useful. So Aquarius. But good question though, you're on the right track. So Aquarius is dealing with Mars in the 9th house, which is kind of weird. Because what Mars in the 9th house does for Aquarius is that's the, like, because Aquarius is all about like adapting to different metrics. They're adapting to different aspects. They're adapting to like what society wants in terms of like the mental flow of what they're experiencing. And they're not recognizing that Aquariusans, like, they're dependent on that in some way. They're not dependent on it in like a personal way, but they're dependent on it in such a way to where it's like, you know, they're dependent on it, and that's like how they interact with society in the world, right? So instead of adapting to philosophy, they they're sharing their philosophy, and they're not just thinking it, they're teaching it, right? So essentially what they got going on is like their vision is valid. Let their beliefs walk besides their word, and let them essentially move in a space that is, you know, let them move in a space that is open. Let them move in a space that is powerful. Let them move in a space that is, you know, not adapting to a way to essentially, I don't know, it's like they're not adapting to people for the purpose of getting something out of them. They're like really putting out what they want instead of, you know, focusing on everybody else, right? So it's like they feel inspired to share their philosophies. They feel inspired to be abundant in that way, right? Yeah, Leo is at an hour and 18 minutes, and then Virgo is at an hour and 24 minutes. So if you want to scroll back and check that out. But yeah, Aquarius is like, I don't know, for once they don't feel like manipulating people, and they actually feel like being, I don't know, they feel like being you know, creative instead of adaptive, if that makes any sense, you know? So with that being said, I mean, that's pretty much it for Aquarius in terms of just general astrology. Let's do the reading. So Aquarius for past, present, future lessons during Mars in Libra. So their past lesson for Aquarius is the You're Not Alone card. They may feel a bit isolating when it comes to connection and community because they're always, that's funny, they're always trying to, how do I put this? Like, Aquarius is always trying to adapt to societal, like, ideologies, if that makes any sense. Whoa, Mr. X, you're number 2. Get back to number 1. Well, that's cool. That's a really long list. So it's like, you know, they're always adapting and trying to move and sort of manipulate what's going on, and they're not necessarily like, they're not I don't know, they're not like living and connecting. They're just being and doing, if that makes any sense, and trying to use it for a purpose. So their present lesson is essentially the empathic starseed card, of where it's like, share your feelings, have energetic sovereignty. Instead of absorbing what's not yours, stop adapting to what's not yours and express instead of receive, right? Be a, you know, producer rather than a consumer in terms of society and ideologies, blah, 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 right? Now, the next card they got is karmic relationships, Orion energy, polarity, right? So what they got going on is they might deal with a little conflict in themselves with Mars being in the 9th house, of where it's like they're so used to moving with this philosophy, and they need to adapt to themselves. They need to be themselves, and they need to actually have society conform to them instead of being so focused on adapting to everyone around you for whatever your own manipulation purposes, right? Because that's how Aquarius gets down at the end of the day. So when it comes to that, and we actually break that down, we need to look at the Libra energy as an opportunity for Aquariuses to, you know, be motivated, have people psyched on them, have people adapt to them, have people dealing with them, right? That's what they want at the end of the day. That's pretty much it. Now, moving on to Pisces. So Pisces has this in their 8th house. So for them, it's transformation time. This is deep. It requires a lot of emotional intimacy. And, you know, intimacy requires action at the end of the day. So when it comes to that, they need to let themselves be seen. And they need to really, like, it's not like they're not interested in vulnerability, but they need to show vulnerability in their fiercest form and actually stick to it, to actually adapt and experience what it is in terms of being themselves, you know? Because it's like they're always adapting to the Akashic records, they're adapting to the emotional landscape, they're picking up what's not theirs, but also losing it at the same time and dropping off their own emotions in the same process. So essentially what's going on to that energy is it's like, you know, people are doing their thing, Pisces is doing their thing, but it's like, that's not everything, you know? So let's pull the lessons for Pisces, past, present, and future lessons for Pisces for Mars in Libra. So what they got at first is the empathic starseed as well, which is energetic sovereignty. And what they're dealing with is like, they need to have energetic sovereignty. They need to not absorb everything. They need to focus on what they're going on, and they need to be, you know, respectful of that. You know, they need to respect their own energies. They need to respect their own inner ocean of chaos. They need to respect the power that comes with the potential of being a Pisces and having control over that, right? Because it's not just empathy. It's not isolating yourself because you're alone on the perspective of the emotional landscape. It's also understanding that you create a lot of karmic relationships and you have a lot of karmic relationships, but what do you want, you know? So when it comes to them being vulnerable, it's like, instead of adapting to the ocean, they become their own ocean, and they understand what Cancer does and what Scorpio does in a way where it's just like, they can create emotion, focus on it, and use that as a magnet to attract what they want, right? So this is where it comes into the energy of them not being alone in karmic relationships in terms of their present and past or future lessons, because they need to recognize that there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more to be experienced than just being someone who's lost in the sauce of empathy. So that's pretty much it for Pisces. Now, yeah, if you guys got any questions, drop them. I'm going to take a little break, then I'll come back. But yeah, drop them questions. Mr. X, keep scheming on the healing rebel. I'll be back. All right, what do we got in terms of questions? Yeah, you're watching a ghost stream. I don't think you said what your dream was. Topics in the description over there. My favorite food? I don't know. I don't live around good pizza anymore, so I kind of miss pizza. But I like brisket. Tacos, nice. Yeah, I did Aquarius. Scroll back to 2 hours for Aquarius. The chum bucket. Still no pickles. Not shepherd's pie. Oh. Thank you. Oh, that's a tough one. They're both equally unhealthy. I don't know. I have to go McDonald's because KFC went downhill, but KFC in Jamaica is really good. Mercury comes out of the microwave on the 11th of August. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Mercury retrograde is now, dude. It ends on August 11th. That's cool. Thank you. Yeah, man, what do you need a reason for? Also, you're number 2 now. You're not number 1. Thank you. Well, that was instantaneous. Beans, it's a new strategy. You should start calling people out by name and saying, "Did you track the like button?" That'd be funny. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, the other live when I was talking about star seeds, I had the most concurrent views. I actually got up to 30. I was pretty happy about that. Ooh. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what topics people like the most. I think The new moons and full moons I already do well. No, traveling isn't bad. Like there may be a little technical bullshit here and there. But no, it's not bad. It's really good to travel on 5 days, like numerological 5 days. Yeah, I should do a life path number live. People like that basic shit. What do you mean by am I new on here? Hello. Yeah, I'm doing what I would call a boring live today. Just basic transit lives. Did some oracle card readings. Yeah, I mean I can do life path numbers. That's not really what I'm interested in, but it's like an add-on. That's funny. Why is your first thought if I just don't understand that thought process. I appreciate that, but I don't know. I've been on here for like a little over 2 hours, so my fire has kind of dwindled. So I'm like not really excited. I don't know. I'm smiling pretty hard right now. I can't say I'm not excited. Yeah. I'm still curious why Renee's thought process is, I haven't seen you, so you must be new. That doesn't make any sense. I also don't understand a lot of these questions because it's like, you literally can go to my channel and like click on the description of the channel and oh, that's interesting, and then see like exactly when the channel was started. So it's like all the information is available to you. But I mean, you'll get there. Yo, Mr. X, go support every single one of the Healing Rebels Club's videos, and then maybe she'll be able to go live, and you can really see who you're about to propose to, you know? Hello from Morocco. We have Morocco and Monaco across the pond. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like you could do that to a lot of different countries. Well, thanks for being chill, Renee. The second anybody experiences a sense of microaggression from me, they typically resort to the, you know, TikTok psychology classics, which are triggered, narcissism, projecting, and the list goes on, right? But have they read any of those definitions? Probably not. They're probably just getting their psychology advice from a divorced 40-year-old woman. You know, that's TikTok for you. It's the new middle school girl watching Dr. Phil, thinking they know something. Being that I just did a bunch of oracle card readings for all the signs, I feel like that's a self-explanatory question of if I know tarot. But to speed that along, yes. Yes, I do. No, Beans, it's what I've been telling you. Do a multi-stream, multi-platform. That's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm just figuring out what platform, and then it's like I do it's like, you know, when you add something to your Amazon. Yes, I've seen Beans many times. I'm gonna wait till she goes live on YouTube for you to discover that for yourself, though. I mean, it's not really much to look into. It's just like I'm just being lazy. Like I could have done this weeks ago, you know. But just being, you know, careful with retrogrades, how I want to do things, or like reintroduce myself to Instagram. Yeah, so it's like you download Streamlabs and then you log in on all your accounts and then you just do it. Like that's it, you know? And then you after that it's like I don't know, I say just do it because then you can figure out how to optimize what you want much faster, you know? Like it's not really like the planning is understanding the app and then doing it. And then after that you figure everything else out. You know? Like I'm on here talking what I normally talk about because I want to monetize my YouTube channel. That's why I want to do it. But yeah, anybody got any like actual questions instead of just like bullshitting? Actual astrology questions. The topic was Mars and Libra. Oh, congratulations on getting married. So if you're getting married within like the next week, that's a phenomenal time energetically to get married. Thank you. The Jupiter-Venus one? Yeah, if you go back and watch my live on the Lion's Gate, I talk all about it there. Yeah, you know, it's going to take some time. I'm sure you'll find an astrologer to break it down. Shouts out to Pakistan. Yeah, basically what I said in the Lionsgate shit talking live was that this conjunction is the technical, like that's what's actually going to do what they think in the Lionsgate. Yay, we got to 20. So yeah. That's what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, it's basically like you just speak kind of like whatever into existence on that day. What do you mean? What question am I ignoring? Oh, that. Oh yeah, right. That's cause that's why. I teach astrology right there. Appreciate it, man. That was funny. Anybody else got any curious aspects of astrology? I was actually paying attention to the fucking the Mars opposed Neptune. That was funny. Bro, I just grow my hair out, and then sometimes I cut it, and whatever I wake up with is what I got, dude. Like, that's literally all I got going on. See ya. But yeah, if that's about it, check out my school. You know, if you want to learn astrology, if you want a reading, click the link. And yeah, appreciate it. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is Mars in Libra is essentially asking you to remember that, you know, powerful moves are often the quietest ones. And remember that real power is intentional and elegant, and it's based on your own alignment. So, with that being said, catch you later, guys.